everybody, Maria here, and I've put a lot of thought into this video and what I want to say, how I want to say it. Um, when I say a lot of thought, generally for these things, I have a thought come to me that I feel passionate about, and I think about it for a minute. I turn on my camera and I go, and I just talk. Whatever comes out, and that's it. That's how I feel. Today is a little more significant for two things, for two reasons, I guess. And I went ahead and took some pen to paper and started writing and tried to get the words to come out right. Tried to put them together so I would hopefully be better understood, so that things made sense. And the more I wrote, the more it was just not coming together. And I think the reason is because the things that I want to talk about, they don't really have a beginning and they don't really have an end. I can't identify where it started for me, and I'm so in the middle of a journey right now that there's no way I can give you a beautiful, solid, happy ending to this story that I'm stuck in. So I guess I just ask that you have some patience with me as I try to piece together a whole bunch of thoughts and feelings as I try to express what's in my heart right now. So today is my brother Matthew's birthday. He would have been 25. He committed suicide when he was 13. And losing anybody in your life that you love, that you're connected to, hurts. It hurts. There's a process to it. There's a grief process. There's pain that you feel and you have to work through or avoid and numb and cope with somehow. But when you have somebody commit suicide and you know why, because you know what that felt like, because you know what they felt like before they did it, because you know that they felt that the world would be better off without them. You have felt the darkness and the heaviness and the loneliness. If you felt that, then it hurts to know that they were hurting that much. And I think it also triggers that revisiting that pain for yourself too. If this is something that you've never dealt with and that you've never experienced, that is awesome. I'm so glad. This video may not be for you, but it may help you understand those in your life who do feel this way, those in your life who are struggling. It may help you identify people who need a little extra love, people who need a little extra validation and help in the sense of knowing that they matter. Most of my life has been really, really chaotic. Really chaotic. I come from a family of 13 kids. I'm in the middle group of kids as number 5. And I basically had a little brother or sister born every 2 years my whole life that I was living at home. My youngest sister was born when I was 16. And I remember feeling like a number, like it wouldn't matter if I disappeared. And not only that, but I've also been encouraged and even guilted and shamed into pretending like things weren't as bad as they were. And I've gotten this from family members. I've gotten it from my own self, trying to focus on the positive, trying to see the good that came out of it, trying to recognize the strength that I developed from coming through so many hard things. But there is a definite need to be really true and honest about what you went through if you have been through trauma. Trauma completely can rewire the way that we see the world, the way we react to people, the way we interact with people, the way we see things, the way we perceive the world. And I know that that is true for me, as I've recently been doing a lot of work to kind of uncover and reclaim my sense of worth and my sense of identity. There was a lot of abuse in my family, and my parents have tried to downplay it, and they've kind of scoffed whenever we've used that word, and like, oh, you're making it out to be worse than it was. And I have to honestly say that I'm not making out to be worse. We were physically abused, hit, kicked, picked up, thrown into a wall. I remember having a concussion for days. I remember being smashed up against a wall until I couldn't breathe, because I refused to say what it was my mom wanted me to say. And until I said it, then she wouldn't let me go. And I remember almost passing out before I gave in and said what it was that she wanted me to say. And that kind of thing really messes with you. It really messes with how you see people that are supposed to love you. When people say they love you, and then that's how they treat you, you get a really warped perception of love. You get a really warped idea of what love is supposed to feel like and what love is supposed to look like. And it's great to be able to move past that and to be able to kind of let it go. It's great to be able to forgive a person that has done those kind of things to you. And I'll honestly say I have. I've worked really, really hard and spent a lot of hours, a lot of time on my knees in prayer, a lot of time studying and researching and changing everything that I could in order to be okay. However, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen, and it doesn't help to invalidate things like that. Another piece to this for me is that we grew up Mormon, and not everybody who grows up Mormon has the same experience as me. I realize that. And a lot of people are able to use the church and use religion, whatever that may be, as a tool to enhance their spirituality and as a tool to connect to a higher power, and as a tool to feel secure with some of those, really difficult questions that we have in life. That's great. But a lot of people tend to use religion or use a church as a weapon, as a fear tactic and as a manipulation tool to get people to do what they want them to do. And that was very much the case in my upbringing, was that the tool of manipulation and fear, and really even justifying the abuse that happened, that is all associated with the church for me, which is really unfortunate. When I realized this, I also recognized the need to distance myself and to kind of disentangle myself while I work through a lot of these really difficult, really deep, really traumatic events that happen in my life that are associated with this church, and to recognize that without realizing it, without intentionally engaging in ways to actively fight or guard against that, I had inadvertently begun doing the exact same thing and using the church in the same way in my own family, and to manipulate my children, and to manipulate my husband, and to take on this fear of everything. Everything was based in fear. The reason I did things, fear. The reason I didn't do things, fear. And to recognize that and to begin to start pulling away from that, I felt more peace in my life and more joy in my life than I had probably ever in my whole life. In all of my years of trying to be a good Mormon, trying to be a good wife, trying to be a good mom, trying to do the best that I could to help and serve and give everything that I possibly could of myself to other people, because that was, that's what you do. And I realized, first of all, that I was far from happy. And I felt really baffled by that, because I was doing it. I was doing all of the things. I was working really hard to be the perfect person, that the way that I understood it, and I wasn't happy. And I also realized that I had really lost myself. I had lost my sense of identity. I had lost my sense of who I was and what it was that I wanted, and everything that I wanted and everything that I needed and everything that I thought and everything that I said and everything that I did had to fall within these very strict parameters of what was okay and what was allowed. And so much of who I am falls outside those parameters. And so I constantly felt at war with myself and feeling like, well, I can either do what I want and feel guilty and ashamed for wanting this, or I could do what I'm supposed to do and feel absolutely miserable. There was no in between. That was where I was stuck. And so I realized that the step I needed to take was to step away and allow myself to explore, allow myself to experiment, allow myself to do things that I had not been allowed to do things that I had not been, that I was afraid to do for fear of losing out on some arbitrary, unquantifiable blessing. And once I did that, I began to feel completely different. Completely different. I felt less like a robot and more like a human. Imagine that. And again, I just want to say I recognize this is not everybody's experience. It's not. But to be completely honest and completely real, I never would have left the church, ever. Except that the God that I had come to know, that I had turned to when I was struggling since I was a little girl. I think I was 6, 7, 8 years old when I first started connecting to a higher power and feeling the comfort and feeling the peace in times of need, and when I would ask for it, and finding the answers that I needed, and having the willpower to go on, and feeling loved when there really was nobody else that I could turn to for that. So as a little girl, I found this source of love and power and peace. And when I turned to this source, call it Heavenly Father, call it God, whatever it is you want to call it, and it told me that I needed to leave the church, that I needed to let it go, and that it was the next step for what I needed to do for myself. I've not run across another person that was told through prayer, through spiritual exploration, that the correct path to take was going to be away from everything that was familiar, everything that you thought was real and true, and feeling so confident in that directive that there was really no question. There wasn't any question that was exactly what I was supposed to do. So I did. It was gradual. It was definitely a really scary thing, because it's been my community. It's been my everything. It's been everything to me for my whole life. And so again, dealing with this sense of loss, and trying to rebuild a sense of identity, trying to figure out who I am outside of that, has been just a trip. I tell you what. It really has. But I am in a good place right now. I'm really happy. My husband has been just incredible, and loving and supporting all the way. And I have seen the effects in my kids, in the way that I parent, in the way that I am able to love them more deeply for who they are, rather than for who I want them to be, or who I think they should be, or who I think that they'll be most happy being. That's not up to me to say. And recognizing that and letting that go has been extremely liberating in all of my relationships. I know that this is going to come as, I don't know, maybe cause some confusion and cause some questions and things for those close to me. And obviously I can't fill in all the gaps right now. I can't give you a play-by-play of everything that has happened to me over the last several years leading up to this, but I have officially taken my name off of the records of the church and am non-religious. So whatever that means, why this needed to happen for me, I'm not exactly sure, but it feels really good and it feels really right. And again, I am not telling anybody that they're doing it right or that they're doing it wrong. This is my story, and this is how I know that I'm supposed to do life right now. I am interested and curious for myself to see where this leads. I'm interested to see how things progress from here and where life takes me, but I am so much more open than I ever was before to different ideas and different lifestyles and different belief systems and different possibilities. And I really intend to create a community of people, a safe community for people who are also struggling with a transition of some type, whether it's a spiritual transition, religious transition, self, trying to find an identity, working through trauma, working through pain and abuse and anything else that has kind of shaped or changed how you interact with the world and perceive the world. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see this new life that's ahead. So I ask for lots of grace. I ask for lots of love as I move forward, and I am open to whatever it is you want to talk about. Anything, really. Nothing is off the table as far as what I'm comfortable talking about when it comes to religion, spirituality, sexuality, relationships, parenting, anything, you know. I think that we have a lack of honesty and a lack of openness in our conversations and in the dialogue these days. And it's really easy to be judged. For example, when my mother found out that I was no longer recommend holding a member of the church, she begged me to help her understand what happened. And I said, nothing necessarily happened. This is just where I'm at right now, and really nothing that I can say is going to help you understand where I'm at, because you haven't been here. And she said, well, try to help me understand. And I said, well, the only thing that I want you to understand, Mom, is that I'm happier than I ever have been in my whole life. She smirked. She said, well, that's not gonna last. And she turned and walked away. So I understand what it's like to not be understood. It hurts. It really hurts. But it's okay. It's okay to not understand. I think there needs to be more of an effort to love. Love past the misunderstandings, past the confusion of trying to work through where we're at in conjunction where other people are at, who we are close to and who we love. And my biggest piece of advice for those wondering is about how to maybe talk to people about things, and maybe how to interact with people who make you uncomfortable. I know that this one piece of information is going to make a lot of people in my life uncomfortable and maybe unable to have a conversation with me because they're going to be afraid that I'm going to offend them, or they're going to offend me, or something like that. And I think my biggest piece of advice is just to listen. Learn how to listen, not judge. Be curious, but don't judge. And just find it in your heart to love past anything that you see that doesn't align with what you believe, because it's okay. It's okay to have different beliefs. It's okay to feel like you have an answer to something, and for somebody else to think that's not the answer. That's okay. You do exactly what it is that you need to do in your life, and let other people do that too. There is no one size fits all when it comes to spirituality, lifestyle, anything. There's not. So celebrate the diversity, celebrate the differences, own who you are, and let others own them. It's not your job to tell somebody who they are. We all get to do that for ourselves. So anyway, that was a lot. Thank you for listening. We're at 27 minutes now, so this is like a solid half hour. So thank you for the time that you've spent, and thank you for listening. Please send me any questions, send me anything you're curious about, send me anything that you're struggling with, and I'm here. I'm so ready to listen and so ready to be the person that I needed when I was struggling. And I appreciate the people who were there for me. I appreciate the people who I cried on and who loved me and wrapped me up in their arms, even if they didn't understand what I was going through, and that they just knew that that's what I needed. So anyway, sending you all my love. You got this. Life is crazy, it's difficult, and who knows how this is all going to turn out. I don't know. We'll see. Bye, guys.